This is issue number 1, which is actually issue number 2 of the 1994 DC series. Freeze. It keeps doing that whenever I say freeze. It keeps cutting away to some heavy metal song that I recorded in me shed. I say me shed, it was meant to be a recording studio, but it is pretty much just a shed with a bunch of instruments in it and some carpet cut-offs down on the floor. Very bad damp in there. If anyone watching lives locally and wants to sort out me shed, comment down below. The wood has kinda shrunk and it is freezing and wet in there. Enough about my carpentry needs. This is a terrible idea from the 90s, where they decided that the DC character, Dr. Fates, he would benefit from an edgy, extreme remake. Gone is his colourful costume and iconic helmet, and instead we have this dodgy criminal fella called Jared, whose main character trait is that he loves knives. He proper loves knives. Like, there is no doubt about it. If you were a lass and you wound up in bed with him, I don't know why you would. He looks like a fucking tosser. But when you were gunning at it with him, he definitely would pull a knife. He is a pretty atrocious character. It almost works as a parody of a 90s character. Our backstory is that he was a grave robber. Not even a cool crime. Like, grave robbing is one of the least impressive crimes a person could commit. I would have more respect for Fates if his criminal activities was mooning people. It was the 90s. Back then, we had a thing called mooning, where you would show someone your bum as some sort of a protest or an insult. What happened to mooning? It used to be massive. Bart Simpson's from The Simpsons, that was like one of his main things. He was always mooning people. But now, nobody moons each other. You'd probably end up getting cancelled if you mooned someone, but we have no example of that because just nobody is bothering to moon anyone anymore. Remember when Jarvis Cocker mooned Michael Jackson at the Brit Awards? By the way, I fucking cannot stand Jarvis Cocker. I hate Jarvis Cocker. I hate anything Jarvis Cocker says, even if I agree with it. And I hate anyone who thinks that Jarvis Cocker is a legend. This is a pretty boring comic though. The first part was daft and dumb, but there was stuff happening. Stupid stuff, but stuff. This one is mostly exposition and setup, where you're explaining what has happened. Jared, he grave robbed and he nicked a bunch of Dr. Fates' magical items. And because he is a 90s hero, he has repurposed most of it as stupid 90s things. For example, the cape, he has wound up using as bandages on his arm. And the magic amulet, it did a big explosion in his face. And it became his face tattoo. I am pretty confident. I am looking for this now. I am pretty confident at some point they are going to mess up. And they're going to have his tattoo be on the wrong side of his face. So first, he has these magical items. And he still has the helmet. And this issue will take us on a boring journey to learn what the magic helmet will become for this edgy 90s hero. Emphasis on the edge part of edgy. We also have evil demons. I'm trying to be fair to this book. I think it is a terrible idea, but I like a lot of stuff that the writer has done with other titles. And the art is between alright and good. So I'm willing to be open to this book and this series. Like the first issue, issue 0, I wasn't that down on it. He, by chance, has an associate who knows all about magic and the DC universe and all the various mythologies of the superheroes. You wouldn't think that a slimy grave robber called Jared would be mates with anyone, really anyone, but definitely not some random weirdo who seems to read the DC Andy books. Then we have the only scene worth a damn, which is Egan's. Well, for starters, he refuses to put on the helmet. He refuses to even give that little tiny bit of fan service to fans of Dr. Fate. He is so 90s and non-conformist, he just won't put on the bloody helmet. But our main scene is he goes and he talks to the Ancient One, the mystical force that guides Dr. Fate and lives inside his helmet. And for what it is worth, in a pretty boring comic, this is an actually interesting scene. The Ancient One is saying all the stuff about how Jared has been chosen as the next Dr. Fate, but Jared is an extreme 90s character, so he's like, fuck that, you loser, I want guns and pouches. And we get the Ancient One assessing Fate's history and how he is a rotten egg and a bad person. But regardless, he has wound up in possession of these artifacts, so now he has to become Dr. Fate. But didn't call him Dr. Fate. That is lame and embarrassing. Instead, call him Fate. And rather than wear the helmet, he transforms it into a knife. He loves his knives. If he could marry a knife, he would. You know that scene in the film Seven where the bloke has sex and he has a strap on that is a knife? That was actually the first DCEU film, and that character, it was Jared. So now that we have equipped and set him up, we have an advert for a series I am more interested in reading. This is that run on the Tiny Titans that I have mentioned. The final iteration of Mark Wolfenstein's decade-long tenure as the writer of the Tiny Titans books. This one is a team led by Red Arrow, and all the members, they are eclipsed, they're like silhouettes. But this lineup includes a lot of characters I am happy to read about. Donatello, she is in it. Green Lanterns, the Kyle Reese version. The Flask, the Bart Simpsons one. Pratt's son, he is there. Supergirl, Shrek Boy, Geo Dudette, I think that's the whole team. I might be missing someone, but even Geo Dudette, it'd be nice to finally get a grasp on who she is, or some idea about her character, or why she has this supposedly convoluted history. Oh, they get attacked by evil demons. Then we have some puff pieces about the creators, and it perhaps makes this book even worse because it becomes clear that they are doing this straight. The writer, John Roger Moore, he thinks this is in the vein of classic Dr. Fate stories. Also, the artist is Welsh. This issue just sucks a lot of the energy out of the series. What little energy it had, even from this kind of pseudo-ironic angle. This one, it really, let's say that it stabs a lot of the fascination with this bizarre, embarrassing 90s relic. I don't think anyone is going to get much out of this issue. If you are reading it, open for cringe or for some surprising moments of quality, it's just boring. If you're picking it up because you think Dr. Fate, he needs knives and face tattoos, you're definitely gonna find it boring. I would say the only use of this is for a completionist like me. This first story arc / run on the book, it is fine and almost passable. And this is part of that, but that doesn't mean this is fine. I am rating it a 7 thumbs up.